In this video, we are going to use a very old method called completing the squares to decompose a given quadratic form into a sum of squares of linear functionals. This method can also be used to show that any quadratic equation, the roots are given by the famous formula minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac by 2a. The same idea involved in the proof of this formula is what is involved here, except the situation is slightly more abstract. So let me state the theorem. So the theorem is as follows. Let Q from Rn to R be a quadratic form. Then we can find P plus N linear functionals. You will understand why I am writing it as P plus N in a moment. P plus N linear functionals Li from Rn to R such that Q of x is nothing but L1x square plus L2 square x plus LP squared x. Afterwards, the sum of squares starts to become actually a difference of squares. So minus LP plus 1 squared x minus minus LP plus n squared x. So there are P positive squares and P negative squares, and all of them are summed together, and that's going to be the quadratic form. Let's go to the proof. The proof is, as I said, depends on a completion of squares. So the formal proof proceeds by induction on the number of variables that occur in Q. So suppose only one variable occurred in Q. In that case, Q of x has got to be plus or minus ai xi squared, where I runs from 1 to n, one of those numbers from 1 to n. It's got to be a square of those because it's a quadratic form and there's a constant plus or minus ai. Okay, now the fact that this is a sum of squares is rather obvious. You can just write Q of x as plus or minus square root of ai xi squared, where ai is greater than 0. Okay, so I'm assuming here also that ai is greater than 0. Otherwise there was no reason to put a plus or minus in front if ai is allowed to be negative also. Okay, so the case r equal to 1 is trivial. Now we are going to proceed by induction. So suppose the result is true. If r minus 1 variables occur. So assume that the result will be true if there are only r minus 1 variables occurring in the expression for Q. We are going to show it for R. Okay, we are now going to show for R variables. Now there are only two possibilities. Either there is a term of the form plus or minus ai xi squared, ai greater than 0, or there isn't. These are the only two possibilities. Either some term is a square or none of the terms are squares, and every single term in this quadratic form is nothing but a mixed term of the type xi xj with some constant appearing in front. Now if plus or minus ai xi squared occurs, then we can sort of do a very simple completing the squares, just like what we did before. What we do is the following. Okay, what we do is we write Q of x as we write q of x as this plus or minus ai xi squared plus xi L of x plus some q1 of x. Okay, so some explanation is in order. This L of x, so what I'm going to do to obtain this L of x is I'm going to club together all the terms that involve xi but is not a square. There's only one term that involves xi squared, and that term I have already isolated it and put it here. I look at all the other terms where xi occurs and take xi outside. That can be done. So what will be left is a linear functional. So here L of x from Rn to R is a linear functional which could possibly be just identically 0. So keep that in mind. It's not such an important point actually. And q1x is those terms that do not involve xi, that do not involve xi. Okay, so far so good. All I have done is I have clubbed together all the terms that in which xi occur except the square term which I have put separately, taken xi outside, ended up with a linear functional, and all the other terms I am putting together it as q1. Okay, now notice that by possibly replacing L of x by minus L of x, I can club together the first two terms also in the following way. I can write it as plus or minus square root of ai xi squared plus xi L of x plus q1 of x. So to do this, I might have to put a minus sign in front of L of x to do this, but that's irrelevant. This can be done. Once this is done, you complete the squares. What I want to do is I want to write this term as a perfect square. So I need to add and subtract something to make this into a perfect square, and what I need to add and subtract is precisely L squared x by 4a. Think about why that is the case. Well, once you do that, you can write this as plus or minus square root of ai xi squared plus xi L of x plus L squared x by 4a. Okay, here I forgot some brackets. So once you do this, of course I have forgotten some terms, plus q1 of x plus q1 of x, and there's a plus or minus L squared x by 4a now. That comes because I have done a plus or minus. So technically, to be 100% precise, this is a plus q1x minus or plus L squared x by 4a. Okay, depending on what sign occurs here, the opposite sign will occur here. Excellent. Now we have we are almost done. What we do is the following: we complete the squares and write the first term as plus or minus square root of ai xi plus L of x by 2a the whole squared plus q1 of x minus or plus L squared x by 4a. Okay, so what are the terms that remain? Well, it's just terms that involve no xi, that is q1x, and L squared x by 4a also does not involve any of the terms xi, right? Because we had already gotten rid of the xi by taking it out. Whatever was left was this L of x. So by induction we can write q1 of x as a sum of squares, as a sum of squares, and we are done, and we are done. Okay, so this concludes the proof under the scenario that there is a term of the form ai plus or minus ai xi squared. Under that scenario, we have managed to write this quadratic form Q as a sum of squares of linear functionals. Okay, excellent. Now suppose no mixed term occurs. Sorry, not no mixed term. Suppose no square term occurs. Suppose no square term occurs. Okay. So this quadratic form, it's a degree 2 thing. So some term has to occur. So suppose xi xj. So some, let's say plus minus a xi xj is a term in Q. Okay, here of course I is not equal to j by assumption, no square term occurs, and we are going to also assume as usual that a is greater than 0. Suppose we have such a square non-square term. Now what we are going to do is we are going to define some linear functionals. We are going to define L1 of x to be nothing but xi minus xj, and L2 of x, this linear functional, is nothing but xi plus xj. Okay. Now what you can do is you can write down this quadratic form as plus minus a by 4 into L2 squared x minus L1 squared x plus other terms. Right? So L2 squared will be nothing but xi squared plus xj squared plus 2xi xj, right? And this would be xi squared plus xj squared minus 2xi xj. So when you subtract L2 from L1, when you subtract L1 from L2, those square terms will just cancel off and you will be left with minus, not minus, plus 4xi xj. So that's why I had to put an a by 4 outside. So this is just elementary algebraic manipulation. Okay, now what you do is replace all occurrences of xi and xj in the other terms by combinations of L1x and L2x. For instance, xi is just L1 plus L2 by 2, right? And xj, you can think of a similar expression for xj. Now treat L1 of x and L2 of x formally as variables u and v. Okay, so this part might sound a bit fishy, or rather might stink a little bit. You might think that this is not rigorous. All I'm doing is I have these linear functionals L1 and L2. I'm just calling them u and v formally. So if you observe that the proof in the previous part was completely formal, there was nothing about the meaning of the terms. It was just straightforward from algebraic manipulation. Now what we do is we replace this L1 and L2 by this u and v. So this quadratic form will just become plus or minus a by 4 into u squared minus v squared plus other terms that involve u, v and variables other than xi and xj. Okay, now we are reduced to the previous situation. We are reduced to the previous situation. There is a square term occurring. For instance, this u squared and v squared, both of them occur. We are reduced to the previous situation, and we can write this as a sum of squares. And once you write this as a sum of squares, all you do is replace back u and v by their expressions in terms of xi and xj, and you're done, right? You are absolutely done. You have formally manipulated this and obtained the quadratic form as a sum of squares. So I want you to ponder about the last part of the proof. It's not that difficult. It's rather straightforward. It's just you have to understand what this substitution really means. Okay, so tradition demands that I work out one or two examples. So I will work out really trivial examples and leave some in the exercises to you. So look at the quadratic form x squared plus xy. Okay, now to complete the squares, it's very easy. All you do is you write this as x plus y by 2 squared minus y by 2 squared. Okay, so this was a rather straightforward thing. So this quadratic form is indefinite. Okay, so why is it indefinite? Think about why this is true. So another example, look at the quadratic form x squared plus 4xy plus 5y squared. So this is even easier. You just complete the squares. You will get x plus 2y the whole squared minus 4y squared plus 5y squared, which is x plus y the whole squared plus y squared, and this is positive definite. That's obvious because it's a sum of two squares. No negative sign is occurring. So irrespective of what x and y are, if they are not 0, this quadratic form is definitely going to be a positive quantity. Okay, this concludes the proof and some examples of completing the squares. This is a course on real analysis, and you have just watched the video on completing the squares.